Gamers Ledge presents.
No, just don't let it go. I started the fight, but now I'm losing. So will I fall again? I'm scared of heights, yet it was me who ran away.
Talking them down from the ledge. With your hosts, Dave, Matt, and Mark. Here's how it works. Every week, a new assertion. The others have to try to talk them down from the ledge. This week, warning, spoilers will be discussed in this show. Hello and welcome to the third episode of Talking Them Down from the Ledge, magic number 3. This is our Gamers Ledge debate club. We don't talk about debate club, except we do. And this week we are talking about Doctor Who, and I am wearing my Trust Me, I Am the Doctor t-shirt. And the biggest problem with this t-shirt is that it has 3 good doctors and one that I wish wasn't on the shirt, and that is the downfall of the series, in my opinion. Is Doctor Who a good show anymore? Has it jumped the shark? I posit yes, it has. Dave and Matt will be arguing against attempting to talk me down from the ledge. So, the way this works is I will have 5 minutes to speak my case. They will each get 5-minute rebuttals in return. There will be a 5-minute cross-examination where they ask me questions and I respond. And then, last but not least, will be a 2-minute summation by me saying whether or not they changed my mind and who had the best argument of the day. So, if you're not familiar with the phrase jumping the shark, because it was pointed out to me earlier today that I am an old person who uses terminology that they've never heard before. Happy Days back in the day, which not a new show, so I'm not even, but this is where the origin of the phrase came from.
Spoiler alert, if you're in midway through Happy Days, you might want to skip ahead a few seconds.
In the show Happy Days, they made an entire story plot around the Fonz ski jumping over a shark tank, a pool full of sharks. And it was so bad that everyone said that Happy Days jumped the shark. And that is where the saying came from. So it means it's past its time, it's worn out its welcome, it's become preposterous in some
And
way.
usually is tied to a single event. The jumping of the shark is signifying like the one event where a show really fell off its rails. This is often happens when, your favorite show where, the tortured couple that are never getting together finally get together and it just kind of sucks.
Or Fringe Season 5. Matt's being very stoic. He's like, you're not talking ill about Fringe, are you? All right, so let's get back to the topic.
That's another episode.
That's right.
That's another episode.
All right, so 5 minutes goes on the clock. Somewhere up here. And I should probably actually get out the timer so we have time here.
Yeah, you need to move to the right or left slightly. You don't have enough room for your clock.
I know. It's just like, where do I go? All right, so it begins now. So here's the thing. Let's first talk about where I think the show jumped the shark and why, and that ties directly into why I think it is no longer a good show. I will start with my background in watching Doctor Who. I had watched when I was very, very young, and we were on like the fourth Doctor ever, not the current fourth Doctor, which we'll get to that in a bit. And I watched them, and I loved them as a kid. I stopped watching at some point. I completely went out of my field of vision, and then somewhere during the I don't know, it was during the middle of David Tennant's run with Rose. A friend of the show, Daniel, he said, "Mark, you got to watch Doctor Who," and I watched like one episode, and it was the most camp shtick, horrible thing I had watched, and I said, "This is stupid, and I'm not going to watch it." And then something happened, and I don't know what, but I started watching, I think on Netflix, and I watched Christopher Eccleston's run, and then I started watching David Tennant's run, and then I got to Matt Smith, and Matt Smith was the one that I kind of fell in love with. And that's the one that yeah, it's very near and dear to me. And that's the one that kind of set the tone in my mind for what Doctor Who should be. I went back and I watched all the other ones, love them. David Tennant's still not, for some reason, certain episodes grate me the wrong way. I don't know why, but Matt Smith is my favorite. Everybody's got their own favorite Doctor. That's not the point. But the point is, for me, is that this season they introduced a new Doctor. And there has been nothing likable about the character. The writing has been, in my opinion, horrific this season. And yes, Doctor Who is based on a outlandish premise in the first place, but they have managed to not make even that not make fun and have fun in doing it. There's nothing desirable about the show for me to watch it, and that's why I feel that the writing and the character and the actor's portrayal of that character has jumped the shark. It is no longer a good show because of all of those things combined. And that really pains me because I think there is a very grand history to the show, and I'm not one of those fangirls who said, "Oh, it's an old Doctor, I don't want to watch anymore." I think he could be brilliant, but I think the writing is just horrific, and he hasn't done a good job of finding a way to portray the character's voice other than asshole and grumpy and mean. And that, to me, is not what I watch Doctor Who for. And yes, I do understand that there have been doctors like that in the past, but that's where it should stay, is in the past. And yes, I realize that time is wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. And I'm glad that you guys are about to pee yourselves again. But the point is that, you know, even during the last half of Matt Smith's run, the writing started being really inconsistent, and they did some things that I consider still to this day to be unforgivable, like when they stranded Matt 80 years in the past, and he could never be rescued. I'm sorry, I meant Rory. My bad. Rory and Amy in the past, and they could never be rescued again. And since that exact point, you could see the shift of the writing team going downhill, and it's just gotten worse and worse, and the whole show has become a mess because of it. And I'm not here to offer a solution. That's not what this is about. What I'm saying is that the show, as it is right now, is a mess, and it is no longer a good show. It has jumped the shark. And with 20 seconds to go, I will turn it over to you. We flipped a coin in advance of the show, and since we didn't really flip a coin, I'll let you two decide who goes first.
Let Matt go.
Matt, your 5 minutes begins now.
Okay, so Doctor Who, a show about a time-traveling alien stuck in a time machine that looks like a 1950s British police box, only kind of not really, which is made out of wood, except they were made out of concrete. the entire show is just ridiculous. Yeah, the original very first episodes were supposed to be edutainment, right? They were kind of the original edutainment. They were supposed to have educational value about the time periods they traveled to. They got about 2 arcs into that and said, this sucks, we're just going to go for fun. And it's been fun ever since. Relative levels. Okay, my history. I started watching, there's not a time in my life where I don't remember Doctor Who. I have no idea exactly when I started watching, but I know it was on PBS. I know it was on Sundays. I knew it was at noon. And my first Doctor was the third Doctor, John Pertwee, who then regenerated into my favorite Doctor still yet, Tom Baker, number 4, the one you referenced earlier. I went through a similar thing that you're talking about with Matt Smith to Peter Capaldi, from Tom Baker to, granted, this is like a 7 or 8 or 10-year-old, I don't remember how old I was, version of it, but we're going from Tom Baker to this celery-wearing, cricket-playing, blonde jerkwad that took over for him, took over for Tom Baker. I still don't like Peter David. I mean, I understand that a lot of people my age's favorite Doctor are slightly younger than me. That's their favorite Doctor because that's the one they were first exposed to. So, you know, everybody, like you said, everybody's got their favorite Doctor, and all the rest of them suck for one reason or another. That's not their favorite Doctor. I mean, you know, I watched it up until PBS stopped airing it. I don't think they ever did show all the Sylvester McCoy episodes. But whatever they stopped at, I watched it from, except when Packer games were on Sunday. I couldn't watch those days, but there were enough times with repeats that I'm pretty sure I saw everything they aired. Now, that's to say, I know I haven't seen all the old black and white ones. All the pre-John Pertwee stuff, I know I haven't seen all that because some of it's just lost to time. Anyway, so the show... Let's start out with the latest season, Peter Capaldi's first season. The writing for all except 2 episodes was atrocious. We can agree on that. We can agree on this was a bad season. I don't think that's the fault of the actors. I don't think that's the fault of the people working the effects and all that. The editors and the writers, and Stephen Moffat does not appear to give a fly about Doctor Who in this season. I will agree also that the last Matt Smith season got very spotty. There were some really weird things that happened in there. I will agree that I think the show needs a new writing staff and new management. I think it's
just agreeing with me in general, because that's what it sounds like.
No, I don't think the show has jumped the shark, because jumping the shark is unrecoverable. You can't come back from jumping the shark. There is some core thing to the show that is just broken and will not work anymore. The core show is still there. The core show can still work. We just need to give someone a chance who cares about the show to run it. There's been nothing permanently broken. Peter Capaldi, especially in the Orient Express, showed what this Doctor can and should be. That was perfect. That was what I was expecting him to come in. He's still brash. He's still a jerk. He's still an asshole at the end of the day. But he made it work, and he saved the day. And he did it all while wearing the, crazy ensemble he wears. So I was really sad to hear Clara was coming back for the next season. I was really hoping she was gone. I don't think she works well with this Doctor, and I don't like what they did with her character development last season. So are there a lot of things I disagree about with? Yes, but I don't think it has jumped the shark simply because it's not unrecoverable. They can, with some good scripts and some good editing and someone who really cares about the subject matter running the show, recover and get back to what this show has been for the last 50 years. Give or take whenever it was on or not on the air. So jumping the shark? No. Has it had a rough patch? Yes. Rough patch. I don't think there's too many people who would argue that there's been a rough patch here. I mean, that forest episode was just, oh my gosh. But the show has not jumped the shark. It is recoverable. The core of the show is still there. And because it is based on such a ridiculous concept, it almost can always be recoverable.
That's your 5 minutes. Dave, your 5 minutes begins now.
Mark, you ignorant slut.
I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
First of all, Capaldi is not the Doctor you want. He may not even be, the doctor you think should be.
He's not even the doctor that the city deserves.
He's the doctor you need right now. Granted, things have been a little, bit dicey as far as the storylines and everything. But, I mean, I have to agree with Matt here. The whole concept of jumping the shark is that the show is just gone. Like, they need to just kill off the show. I have to agree with him. I mean, it's a show about time travel and everything. You can do whatever the hell you want with that show. Get in some new writers. Get back to the core of what they want out of Capaldi, and you have yourself a great show again. I mean, you could say the same for when Matt Smith started. He started off a little bit rough. Let's face it, Tennant's the best doctor that ever have lived. So. So when he made the change to that, it was funny. I got back into the new show. Some friends of mine were telling me to I have to watch this. And I'm just like, all right, this is, I don't know. So I got in 3 episodes before Tenet was done. So I got hooked on Tenet and they changed them. And I was like, screw this show. This sucks. And then, so I just kind of forgot it and I stopped watching them live. And then I went back and finally, when everything started hitting Netflix or whatever, I caught up on them there and started with the first one and then, went from there. And even went back to some of the black and white stuff that was showing up on Amazon Prime and stuff. Don't do that. Horrible stuff. So it could be worse. That's bad. No.
It's period right. It's good for the period. Sorry.
All right. No. Okay. That's kind of fair. That's an okay interjection. But yeah, so I mean, there's because the show has been on so long. I mean, it is just vast in the number of episodes and the amount of years and the amount of stories that are in there. And there's even the radio plays and all that kind of stuff if you really want to, dig deep. So to say that this show now, the way it is now, is the worst ever and the show should end because of that. That's a bit much, I think. I think you really might want to go back and watch some of the stuff that the show survived from. I remember one of my first memories of Doctor Who is going back to the 4th Doctor when he was having a conversation with, I think it was the 4th Doctor. I could be wrong. I mean, this is a kid's memory here we're going by. And there was a Dalek, and the Dalek was supposed to murder somebody, and he developed feelings. And I just remember, he could not kill anybody because he had feelings. And he just sat there and went, his little thing was flopping up and down. He was just like, I can't. That's what the thing said. That's worse, I think, than what's going on now. Because that was pretty awful. Whoa, what happened?
It's
Lose.
right.
Okay. So, your argument that the show is just completely unrecoverable is just invalid. It's completely recoverable. Capaldi dresses way better than the last Doctor, first of all. So that alone, just getting rid of the bow tie, is huge. So you got a guy with better fashion sense, wisdom because of experience, unlike that kid. I mean, how old was he? Was he 22 or something like that? You can't have a doctor that's 22. You just can't. It just doesn't work. So, basically, the show is still quite recoverable from it. I do agree. They need to get some writing back into it. Maybe some new blood injected into it to kind of get the excitement back from it. But I think even the way it's going right now, if they just continue as is, then yeah, the show is going to really fall off. So basically, to sum up, Capaldi looks better, dresses better, is better. So overall, the show's completely recoverable. You're just being a hater because he's not young and cute. It's clear. It's clear. It's obvious. I'm sorry.
All right, your 5-minute cross-examination begins now.
Dave, go.
I need a minute.
Okay. Is it not true? And you won't admit to this because you already said you didn't. But I have a fairly good memory of you pretty much decrying any future Doctor Who as ever being ever good again. Now that Matt Smith was leaving the show, I might be exaggerating that just a touch, but not much.
No, I have said repeatedly that he is my favorite Doctor. I was actually very excited for Capaldi because they portrayed him, especially in the 50th anniversary episode. The mystique and the aura that they built up for him was so kick-ass. That was the vibe you got from him. This was going to be a roll up your sleeves and get to work and kick-ass Doctor. Kind of almost like the War Doctor. And when we got that first shot of him, and this goes back to a point that Dave just said about him being wise and experienced, and that first shot of him is, Marty, do you know how to fly this thing? That just, like, it set the tone of, oh my God, what have they done? And it never recovered.
Wait a minute, wasn't Matt Smith's first episode him sleeping?
No, that was David Tennant.
That was David Tennant.
Crap.
So, I mean, and it went from confused old person to belligerent old person and never got better. I was more than willing to give him a shot. I love Matt Smith, but I did not like how, like we said earlier, not to rehash, but I did not like how the end of his run was written. It was very touch and go. And I agree that there were two good episodes. The one you referenced on the train, and the other one being the
bank heist.
The bank heist. Those two episodes were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't the Doctor being an asshole to somebody, which is what every other episode was.
Well, he was. He just wasn't. I think it was more of a stylistic choice of how they filmed and how they edited the pieces together. He was still a jerk. He told the girl to basically kill herself.
But
right?
The issue is that I think the actor has to take some ownership, especially if he sees the inconsistencies in the script.
Right.
You know, there's got to be some ownership there, and that's what I feel was also missing, not just from the writers, but from the performance.
Right, and I see. I don't understand how that all works, so I don't know how much I can hold them accountable for. But Coleman has the worst in the series. She goes from wanting to be the Doctor to having the opportunity to be the Doctor, and then bitching about the fact that she was the Doctor. It was horrible.
And I didn't have time to say it in mine, but I hate Clara. Hate her. Worst companion ever. But that's the end of my answer to your question.
Dave?
I don't know. They're just the flawed logic of, saying that the show jumped the shark and it's unrecoverable is just completely invalid in this. I mean, especially for a show that's, about time travel and you can do whatever the hell you want in it. It's completely recoverable. I mean, they could sit there and do something amazing at the start of next season, and then he's going to be loving the show again. And then we're going to have to hear how Capaldi is his favorite Doctor. This is just...
So I'll take that as my question so that I can answer it, even though there was no question in there. So the thing that strikes me is listening to the both of your arguments. And I'm trying not to be harsh when I say this, but you sound like that portion of nerd culture that makes excuses for things to exist long after they should have been retired. And, do I hope that they turn it around and make it better? Yes, but at the same time, we have no evidence of that for the last year and a half. We only have the evidence that it's going to continue down this path. And if that's the case, I'd rather see it retired than continue in this fashion.
Well, if you're going to use that argument, then you could actually say that the anomaly of the short recent run, that the good stuff that Tennant did, the so-so stuff that Matt Stone did.
Matt Stone? Wow, you're definitely the Doctor Who fan. Matt Stone, The non-existent doctor. Wow. And thus ends the cross-examination period on a high note. All right. So my 2-minute closing and summation. This is a tough one for me because it's something I care about, and unlike as Daniel would say about Arrow, because I only watched 4 episodes of it, this is something I have invested a lot of time about. I feel like I know the characters, and again, this kind of does tie back to our first episode. I feel like they're not writing the character that we know, and I'm not saying it needs to be the same every time, but it seems like the essence of the character has gotten lost in translation from writers to acting, I don't know where. I'm going to say that I am wrong on this and that you guys are right. Not because I think under the framework of what we're defining as jumping the shark in that it should be canceled. Yeah, you're probably right. It shouldn't be canceled yet. It should be given some time to adjust its course. Am I optimistic that's going to happen? No, but when you look at the body of 50 years worth of work as a whole, I think you have
It survived Colin Baker.
And there's something to be said about that, in the fact that they can always do something and swap a new doctor in, a new companion, etc. They're not doing that, which still kind of frustrates the hell out of me. But I guess you're right. It's not a bad show. It's a bad patch or stretch of the show. And I don't want to see it canceled over that, even though I'm not very pleased with the direction it seems to still be heading at this point. So I would say that that argument which was made, you kind of both made it in different ways. So I'm going to give the point to both of you, because Dave brought up the point about the history, and you brought up the point about it being a bad patch as opposed to a bad show. So I'm going to give the point to both of you for the arguments. Best argument of the day. And
teamwork. Nice.
Fist bump. Where I don't know where you are relative to me.
Non-spatial relevant fist bump. It's because wibbly wobbly timey-wimey. That's all I have.
Exactly. And this is the Fourth Doctor scarf. Well, one of the Fourth Doctor scarves. He had several, but.
So that's going to do it for this episode. Of course, we'll have our debriefing following this shortly, but next week, join us for our topic of Disney buys everything. A good thing or a bad thing? And please don't buy us and kill us, overlords. We worship you. And other than that, don't forget to, if you like the show, please do like and subscribe. Visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/gamersledge, which you should see in the top right. If I could reach across Matt, because he's on the far right, you'd see it up in his top, your other right, but that's okay. And there you go. Check out the eye there. I'll put it when he's flailing, because that's funny. And other than that, visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/gamersledge, and follow us on Twitter at gamersledge. And of course, do visit the site, gamersledge.com. And until next week, game on.
Game on.
Game on. Coming into this isn't the first time we've had this conversation. So coming into this, I'm like, why are we even doing this? There is no way we are talking Mark out of this. He is a Matt Smith fanboy. He just is diehard on the fact that everything about Capaldi's run is horrible. And, I think I got him to admit once that the Orient Express was an okay episode. I just don't know. This is a horrible topic to agree to. So I was honestly very surprised. I was beyond surprised that you conceded to what is obviously truth, but it is obviously true that when truth is spoken, truth is recognized. So, but seriously, that showed a good amount of honest and actual consideration on your part, and I appreciate that.
Well, I have to admit that they had some arguments I was not expecting. I kind of went into this not with the premise of killing the show when I was saying it was jumping the shark, but they did bring up a good point that usually means that's when you should cancel the show, and that's not what I want to see happen for it. So I think that's, and the fact that it really has been overall a good show over 50 years is a remarkable achievement. So even if it has a bad patch, you shouldn't cancel it. So I hate to say that they were right, but they were right.
Well, it was nice to see him take his beating like a man. He did admit his wrongnicitude, which is a good thing. It shows that he's growing as a person, as an individual. So it's always wonderful to see that, and I'm really glad that Matt and I are here to help him along on his journey of becoming a human being we actually want to spend time with. I'm just really looking forward to seeing him blossom into a beautiful young woman eventually. So that'll be great.
Вот смотрите, как у кошки нервоз происходит, что рука расшибется. И это всегда постоянно. Доставай.